Welcome back. Here we are on A Mighty Blaze. Pub Day Tuesday continues. I am so excited. I feel like I have been waiting to have you on to discuss your amazing, brilliant, my kind of writing. It's R.L. Maizes, and it is, did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Other People's Pets. I don't remember when after I read We Love You, Anderson Cooper, I found out about this book, but I was like, oh my goodness, another book by you and pets. And I was hooked. And I think I started sending you messages like, when is this coming out? When is this coming out? And we are thrilled to have you here on Pub Day on A Mighty Blaze, July 14th. I mean, when did you first start posting about this? I feel like I've known about this book for a long time.
So I think, the cover probably, that's probably when I started posting about it, and it's probably 8 months. I
Okay.
mean, it's been a while.
So it's imagination, because I feel like I started stalking you on Facebook a very long time ago. I do get very excited when I love a book, and I so loved We Love You, Anderson Cooper. At that, I just was like, who is this writer? Who must she be? So let me read your intro. R.L. Maizes was born and raised in Queens. I still hear it. She lives in Boulder County, Colorado, but she sounds like she lives in Queens. She, her stories have aired on National Public Radio and have appeared in the literary magazines Electric Literature, Witness. I think it's about time for glasses. Bellevue Literary Review, Slice, and Blackbird, among other publications. Her essays have been published in the New York Times, the Washington Post, psychologytoday.com, Lilith, and elsewhere. She's an alum of Bread Loaf Writers Conference, Swanee Writers Conference, and Tin House, all the best writers workshops. Her work has been nominated for a Pushcart Prize. She's the author of the short story aforementioned collection, We Love You, Anderson Cooper. We love you, R.L. Maizes, and welcome to A Mighty Blaze. And again, congratulations on this beauty. Look at this. You guys have to read this book.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I think it might be the lighting in here. I'm not going to any doctor appointments. So what the hell? It doesn't matter. If I need them, it's going to have to wait. I'm
the same right now.
I'm not going anywhere. So congratulations. The book is out in the world. And I love, go to your website is rlmaizes.com. From there, you can go to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I love your Instagram feed. Talk about your love of animals. Let's start there.
Even when I was a kid, we rescued kittens, and then I wouldn't say always, but for the last 20 years, animals, as an adult, animals have been a really important part of my life. When I was in a bad marriage, so I'm in a good marriage now, but when I was in a bad marriage, I can't tell you how important having loving animals was.
Mm-hmm.
The touch you get from them, the loving touch, just their, kind of allegiance to you, how they.
Sorry, it just started thundering. It scared the hell out of me.
um,
It was like, what is this? Anyway, their allegiance to you.
Yes, how they get you out of the house so you exercise, just the love they give you. And, and then I got divorced. And then they really saved me because they were such great companions. And rather than feeling lonely, I just felt surrounded by love. So I just, and so then I started, then I worked at I volunteered at a shelter to get to know animals, just to help the animals, but also I got to know them better. And, I'm vegan, so I don't eat meat. So I really, I just treasure animals, and it does concern me a little bit, the suffering that some of them go through, whether it's through neglect that they sometimes have, or even wild animals with habitat destruction. So this is something that's important in my life.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person that if I see a little critter out, I'm like, well, where are they going?
Right.
I know they live out in the wild, but I worry and I
Yes.
think about them. And actually, a neighbor's cat was out before here, And I said, well, she has a collar on. She's somebody's. And I know people let their cats out, but I'm like, yeah, these are the things that deeply affect me as
Yeah.
well. Also, oh, vegetarian, not quite a vegan. Some days,
Oh, great. That's great.
mostly vegetarian. I mean, always a vegetarian, sometimes a vegan. But there is nothing like that love. And you wrote a beautiful column in Modern Love. People could go check that out in the New York Times. I don't remember, when did that come out? Just recently,
It
right?
came out in May.
Oh, it was May.
Yeah.
There's no sense of time. That's the
No.
other thing. There's no sense of eyesight or time anymore. It's like I don't even remember, but I remember your publicist sent it to me, and I love the Modern Love column. That's one of my
Me too.
favorite stops. So to be in there, and what was some of the feedback that you got? You must have gotten so much.
Oh, I think it was the first non-COVID piece that he'd published in a while.
Wow.
And I think he felt it was time to give people a little bit of something else.
Mhm.
And that's what people reacted to, that, it's, I hope, an uplifting story about how animals brought my husband and I together. And I think people really just were happy for a break,
Yeah,
from some of the heaviness. I think in a way other people's pets, can do that too.
let's
I it's
get together. That's my favorite shot.
So
And
I think that the book can do that too. It's not that there's no sadness in the book. There is some sadness in the book, but it's also, it can be funny, it can be suspenseful. It can be uplifting. So I hope through the book, just like through the Modern Love column, that's something that people would enjoy right now because of how much heaviness there is around us.
it's, I knew when I sat down with it, and it was a while ago, I would love it. And it is a Robin kind of book. It's smart, funny, deeply observational, amazing characters that you're going to root for one way or the other. That it's just my kind of book. And I agree. And I think it's really interesting when there was that pivot to a different tone with Modern Love, and knowing when it's okay or when it's
Yeah,
just time to sort of move things in another direction while being mindful that they're not
of
going.
course.
But it is a really weird break and a weird time. So you'll always sort of remember that your piece was, that,
Yeah.
that conduit. And I think that people, I mean, there are a lot of books to be reading, and these are the kinds of books that I want to be entertained, and I want to just get so into a story that well, not that I know what day or what time it is anyway, but that I certainly don't. So let's talk about some of the characters and where
Sure.
the story, and because there's no spoilers on Reading with Robin. Other people's pets just came out today. So if you're the kind of people that order your books, I suppose it's delivered to your doorstep today, which I know there are people on Tuesdays that like they're waiting for their books. So don't worry, we promise. I promise to do my part. So you, I
Okay.
don't know.
Right, and I'll try as well, of course. And so the characters, there are two main characters. One of the main characters is a woman named Lala, who's an animal empath and who was raised by her father to be a burglar. But when the novel opens, she has actually kind of straightened out her life. She's in her fourth year of veterinary school. She's engaged to a chiropractor named Clem. But then her father gets arrested, and the only way for her to raise his attorney fees is to go back to robbing houses. And she justifies it by taking care of sick animals in the houses that she robs. So that's the setup and the premise. And then her father, Zev, is okay. So we know he's a burglar. Their mother, or I should say, Lala's mother and Zev's wife, left them when Lala was 8. So he's raising Lala by himself, and he's taught her to be a burglar. Um, and the story is her story, but it's also his story. They both there's a character arc for both of them, and a plot, and plot lines for both of them that weave together.
Yeah, I mean, just right there, how does that idea come to you? Like, actually, I know I did read that you had had some burglaries. I mean, that was something
Yes.
that's, yeah, in because you think like, well, how, and it works so well, but you think like, oh, okay, and how to make those characteristics redeeming,
Yes.
and also to understand where our characters, where Zev and Lala are coming from, and what may bring them to that point, and a daughter's loyalty to her father, and how her empathy for pets, how she really, they're inside her.
Right.
So it's like a magical kind of thing, but it's magical, but it seems very realistic to me, actually.
Well, that's great because I that's why I want the book to come off. In other words, there's clearly magical realism in the book. It's a genre I love. I love reading it. I love writing it. But you don't, that's not the experience necessarily of the character you want the reader to have. You want them to feel like, oh, this is perfectly normal.
Sure. Yeah. That's how it felt like, of course, that she would feel this.
Right.
Yeah. Talk about that connection to having been
Right.
burgled. Yeah.
So we were burgled numerous times when I was growing up in Far Rockaway, Queens. And one time I was in the house. And it was really strange. I was in the house and I was in the house with a friend from school. It was like a Saturday night. No one else was in the house. And I hear someone coming up the stairs. And I think it's my dad because my dad is not the kind of person who's going to say, hello, honey, I'm home. He's just going to come in the house. And so I hear someone coming up the stairs. I'm like, hi, Dad. And then I hear, oh shit, there's somebody here. And I hear someone going down the stairs and running down the stairs. And then my friend and I, we go into my parents' room. We lock the door. That's the only door with a lock. And we call 911. And then for the 5 minutes approximately that it takes for the police to come, I'm screaming, the police are coming, the police are coming. And I think they had left immediately. These burglars, most burglars, do not want a house that's occupied. They want to take stuff when there's nobody there. So, and the house, as I said, that was not the only time. It happened numerous times. And so I think I'm probably, I think that was part of my psyche. But as you said, when I decided I was going to write about burglars, I knew that I was going to have to give these characters redeeming characteristics if I was going to have the reader want to follow them for 300 pages and root for them, which I wanted them to. So, with Lala, it was a little easier. She's an animal empath. I was going to make her an animal empath. So that's, the fact that she loves and takes care of animals makes her somewhat sympathetic. Her mother abandoned her when she was 8. So that makes her somewhat sympathetic. Um, uh, you know, she, she has this father who loves her and does his best by her, but his best is not great. So she's sympathetic. So then with Zev, it's a little trickier, right? Because he's an adult. But at the same time, he does love Lala. And even though he doesn't do a great job, his love for her is apparent on every page. And so I think that helps a lot. And there's some of his backstory in the book, and I think some of his backstory helps. So that was some of the ways that I tried to make them um, more sympathetic.
Well, you certainly did a great job, because it's almost like I forgot that part. Like, oh yeah, the story takes over, and that is, whenever we post on Facebook or we talk about books, and people will say about, just, I'm not even thinking of a specific book about, well, they weren't likable, or they weren't, I don't know what people think, but like, you want them to be relatable, you want them to be interesting, you want characters, and all of these characters and other people's pets. This brand new novel just out, and visit rlmaizes.com, and you can find Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and also plug always for great reviews on Goodreads and on Amazon. It would take you just a second to put 5 stars and write something really nice, and I always recommend that people do that. It sounds like that. Can you hear the rain here?
No.
It sounds like, if I start to look nervous now, we're pretty airtight here, but like all of a sudden it's New England. So you're in Colorado now, right?
Yes. Yes.
So do you feel safer there? Do you have a specific alarm system, or how do you sort of?
Oh, so I definitely, I mean, I think I do feel safer, although I brought a lot of my New York anxiety with me to Colorado.
Get rid of that stuff. That doesn't go
No,
anywhere.
right. Like other people, like people in Colorado don't lock cars, they don't lock homes.
Right.
They will put their purse on the back of their chair in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Like there's no way I could eat my food if my purse was on the back of the chair. Like my purse is going to go over my body no matter where I am eating. And I will never not lock my car door and I will never not lock my house door. And even when I'm in my house, because the thing that got stolen that night that they broke in and I was there, that my purse was downstairs in the kitchen and they stole my purse. When I'm in my house, I hide my purse.
I would
If I'm,
understand that, right? Do you know? Do you always know where you've hidden it though? That's the trick.
I learned a long time ago, since I do hide things, I learned a long time ago that everything has to have a home.
Yeah.
You have to always hide it in the same place or you will look for it for a
Right.
week and a day.
Right. You're like, I know I hid this,
Right.
so it would be in the most logical of my hiding places. Then if
Right.
it's not, there's that momentary sense of panic. But
Right.
we're not going to ask you to divulge where
No, no, no.
place is.
I researching for this book, I learned all kinds of things about how to prevent against burglars because I researched burglars. You
Mhm.
know, and I will see people doing things, leaving a window open. I mean, that's a classic example of how they break in is, you know, it's summer and it's you're leaving your windows open for air and then you go out. It doesn't have to be for, you don't have to go out for a long time. Don't leave your window open. Okay, folks? Just don't leave your window open.
I don't. I don't leave the windows open. I do only the only time I leave my window open and the air conditioning on is because Benny, who you know,
Yes.
sit in the window and he likes the window open. So
Oh,
even if it's hot out, I
yeah.
open the window for Benny and I just turn the air lower,
Right.
which not everybody in the house thinks is a really good way to manage the AC. However, that's
Right.
my plan. But
Nice.
so yes, we do not leave windows open. And
And I just have to say,
yeah.
Benny's such a gorgeous dog.
Oh,
He's such a gorgeous. I just those ears, those different color ears.
I know they melt me, and we tried so hard. I'm not giving up because I wanted him positioned with your book in a very specific way. He wasn't having it at the moment, and he knows when I'm doing that. He just knows. But the book came out today, so if it's later today or tomorrow, I will still take it as a win if I get him. But yeah, he's a love. He's an absolute love. Who's there by you? You have Rosie, and is
So
anybody?
they're not in the room with me because Rosie would be fine, but Ari, my cat, would knock over the lights.
Oh,
You know, she would just because I have lights on the desk, she would just climb on the desk and knock them over immediately. I mean, that would be. And then if I let Rosie in the house, in the room, in the office, and not let Ari, the cat, in the room, she'll bang on the door. Not acceptable. But that's who I have right now. Are the two rescue? These are two rescues, and they're just fantastic, fantastic creatures.
there is just nothing like having that. And we did not grow up in our family with dogs. And now my sisters, we all have dogs. And we're like, how did we grow up? That might explain a few things. Just having that love
Yeah,
and just, like you say, having a reason to go out when you might not
yeah.
otherwise go. Can you talk about the Modern Love column and how you met your husband?
Sure, sure. So, well, so we were on a date, and we quickly found out that he found out I had two dogs, and I found out he had one dog and one cat. And the first thing I thought, which because I worry about everything, was, oh my God, like we can't have three dogs. This is the first date, like But I'm worried already, like we can't have. Well, shortly after that, probably a third date, we decide we'll take our dogs to get to know each other a little bit on a hike. That's what we'll do for the date. And we go on the date, and I don't bring water for the dogs because it's October, and I just think that it's not going to be hot. And it's not a super long walk. It's not a super, well, it turns out it was very hot. And so we're walking, and at some point, Steve, my husband, gets down on one knee. And again, like, because my brain is just weird, I'm like, oh my God, he's getting down on one knee. Like it's the third date.
I
You
do
know,
remember
I
reading this.
I didn't really think he was, but just a flash. Well, what he was doing was he was putting water in his palm from his water he had brought for himself to drink. He was putting it in his palm for my dogs. And he didn't ask me, which I loved. Like he just knew they needed it. And so he just had them drink, and I fell for him in that moment. I mean, I was so just moved that he was tuned into them, that he knew what they needed, that he didn't want them to suffer, that he would just give them his water. And again, just it was needed. He was going to do it. It wasn't a question of asking anybody.
I love that. Now I remember because so now that you're saying that, I would remember it was a couple of months ago. I was thinking it was recently, but that's tucked away in there because I remember thinking that's my first stop on a Sunday is reading. You know, I know it's online the Wednesday before. I wait to read it in print on Sunday. Even if it's a friend who's posting about it, I'm like, nope, I'm waiting to read it on Sunday. That's my thing.
I
So
know other people like that too, who it's a special column to them. They wait for the paper edition, and
yes,
they wait for Sunday. It's their ritual.
exactly.
Yeah.
I would really miss that, and I've reached out to more people who have written columns. Sometimes it is an author, and I know they have a book coming out, but there have been many through the years where they're just, they're not necessarily a writer, or they wrote the column and you can find them. And I'm so moved, I send a little message, or
So nice.
through Facebook. Yeah. And sometimes they have then turned in, then there was some writing or there was a book coming, but sometimes they were, pieces separate
Yeah.
from a writing life. Speaking of, what are you reading?
So, a couple of months ago, I've just been thinking about it lately. Claire Beam's book, The Illness Lesson, which I think is so smart and so good. And so I really love that. Of course, I'm reading Britt Bennett. Like this, everybody who come on this show say that they should. It's worth it. Like I love The Vanishing Half. I loved it so much. I immediately picked up The Mothers, and I'm really enjoying The Mothers. Before I started this tour, I read The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes because I was going to have to do all this extroverting, which is not my normal. And she has some real wisdom in there about how to approach it. She kind of took that on as a challenge to become somewhat more of an extrovert. And it's a beautiful book. I mean, it's a kind of memoirish because it's a year of saying yes, but it's very thought provoking and thoughtful. I really like that. I loved Laura Zigman's separation anxiety. Well, of course I love it because the dog's on the cover in the baby Bjorn, and it's hilarious.
That
You know,
there is a picture of Benny wearing the handkerchief because it came with some swag. So
nice,
I'll try. I'll repost it and tag you. I
nice.
loved that book. Yeah, that's a real. It's quirky. It's fun. It's
Yes.
smart. Dog. Yeah, I can imagine. And you're both. It's a different color than other people's pets. If I were in my office right now, I'd quickly grab it and show you
You
together.
think it's the same color?
No, different.
No, different.
Different, but yeah, different saturation is what
Got
I've
it.
been told. But yeah, it's bluer green than this.
Yeah.
And this book though, and who I forget who blurbed it. Oh, Kevin Wilson. Yeah, I mean,
Yes. I love his stuff too. I have to say, I loved Nothing to See Here. He writes the most amazing magical realism there is.
I know I'm a fan also, and just so many of my Eleanor Lipman, Jill McCorkle, Rebecca Mackay, Anne Hood, Kevin. I mean, everybody who has fabulous taste and is an awesome writer has loved this. And it's rlmazes.com for more information to go to. Do you have a lot of, well, this is, you wouldn't have thought this is book tour and this is how it starts, but you have your events up on the website.
I do have my events up on the website. There's about 7 events, and we did one actually yesterday. We did one. There's a show on Facebook that's actually super popular called um, uh, Positively Dogs, and he does a daily show called Dog Hugs. It was such a blast.
I'll have to look at that. The dog people are just the
I
best
know.
people. And they are so committed and so like over the top, doggishly fun. That, yeah, I would think there'd be a lot of that. I'll have to look for that. So it's a Facebook page, a
Yes.
Facebook show called Dog Hugs.
Yep.
Okay. I wind up with more notes after I interview somebody than the actual notes that I never look at when we are talking. Because you did talk about the dog community. And I mean, in Colorado, I mean, does everybody have a dog? And did you meet a lot of friends?
Absolutely. It's a very, this is a funny way to put it, but it's a doggy community. And so in my neighborhood, you meet the dogs first. The dogs meet each other and the dogs meet each other and get to know each other. And maybe after, 6 months or a year, you're finally like, we know your dog's name. We don't know your name. And then you get to meet the people. But then truly, we do form a community because, like, I can't tell you how many times, I've let other people's dogs out or taken other people's dogs for a walk if they're in a tight spot, and similarly they help us out. And that's a lovely, and then what happens is you finally move on to having an adult, interaction without the dogs. Like you finally go out for a drink, not now, obviously,
No,
but
well, that's the thing. Right. I mean, there were people that knew my kids because my kids knew their dogs. I didn't know who they were. And similarly, I know all the dogs in the neighborhood. And then there is a point at which it's embarrassing.
Right, right.
No idea who you are. And they're even probably a Facebook friend if they're a neighbor, maybe. And you know the dog, like I know when a dog gets a different haircut.
Right, right.
Person, I could see them in the supermarket. Although now, it's different. And also when they're, when the dogs want to meet each other and we're supposed to be apart. So like,
Yes.
that's been very tricky. I don't know how.
That was heartbreaking for a while. I have to tell you now, I'm putting on my mask and I'm letting the dogs say hi, especially if I know the people and the people are staying separate between the two leashes,
Right.
but we're putting on our mask just so they can greet. And I feel like that gives us our 6 feet plus masks. We're hopefully okay.
I agree because it's just too sad.
Yep.
They just looking like I usually
Yep.
say hi to that one, and now and they don't understand. It's hard enough. I don't understand. They certainly can't. I think that's good. I know. I think it became like as like I don't know, as things became a little bit more clear and what makes sense for you and the dogs and all of that, because their mental well-being is so it's paramount. So
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, so it's other people's pets. You're going to love it. It's out today, and visit RL Maizes website, and then you can see all of the fun events. But this is just, if you love what I love to read, you're going to love this. And I would recommend don't read it as fast as I did because then it's gone. So just sort of, I don't know if you read like that, but when I love a book, it's a little too fast. And then I'm like, and I'm not particularly a fast reader, but I was excited about it when it came. I was just like, I have to read this, and then all gone. But then I get to share it with everybody. On behalf of A Mighty Blaze, this is Reading with Robin, and it has been such a pleasure to get to know you a little bit.
I just want to say thank you so much, and thank you for all that you do for writers and books. We appreciate it so much. We appreciate it all the time, and we especially appreciate it right now when it's a little harder to get the word out.
My pleasure. I'll keep shouting about it, and I will get a good picture of Benny no matter what. Put it in his little crate, and maybe when he takes a nap, he'll be there with it. But I will get it, and it is a pleasure and a joy to do that and spread the word about amazing books and continued fun reading, pets, and maybe you have pictures of them up on your Instagram, though, right?
I definitely have pictures of both Ari the cat and Rosie the dog.
Okay, just because they didn't make an appearance, but I understand you didn't want the lights to be knocked down. So, and that's been the other really fun part about doing all of these interviews in people's homes is we have met a lot of,
Right.
of animals, but you have to know how it's going to go. So we'll see them. We'll go to Instagram. So go to RL Maizes on Instagram, and I will tag pictures, and I'll make sure that then he's got to do his work. That's all.
Fabulous.
Thank you so much.
You.
And bye-bye, everybody. See you next Tuesday.
Bye.